Hey, welcome back to my reflections on the Camino. I'm in week 3. I'm now on day 16, and I'm going to share with you about my walk from Carrión de los Condes to Sahagún. This was a 40 kilometers, about 24-mile walk, and it was a long walk, but it was almost entirely, again, in this section that you would call the meseta, which is a lot flatter. And so there are a lot more sort of open vistas. And if there are hills, they're much gentler. They're not nearly as long, as steep, as difficult. The terrain isn't nearly as harsh as well, the rocks and the going up or down. And I'm really now kind of getting into my groove. And this was a big day for me because it was a day to push myself a bit and see if I could get to that limit. And part of my goal was if I could go like a stage and a half, if I could go, or a stage and a third, then if I could do that for a few days in a row, I would get ahead. And if I could get ahead, then I could have a day off. And so where I'm standing today, not in day 16, but I'm all the way out in day 19, on a Sunday in Leon, I'm actually 2 days ahead of my typical stages. So I took a day of rest in Leon, and if you stick around, I'll eventually get to the actual today, so that I can do more reflecting and actually catch up with these videos, so I can share with you the journey that I'm on. Today and tomorrow, this stage and the next one, these long days, both have a theme of death and the pain of death and the impact of death, and how faith is impacted or brings an impact on the reality of death. Today was a day I got up really early. I left at 6 in the morning. I actually intended to leave even earlier than that. I wanted to be able to get a good number of hours under my belt before the sun came up, and I wanted to be able to peacefully get through this. It would be about 2 stages of around 12 miles each that I would be going through. And so I wanted to be able to have only 12. When I had to reach the second stage, strategically, I wanted to be able to be, say 9 in the morning. Well, I got an hour late, so I got to the second stage around 10:15. But during the first stage, it was pitch black out when I left at 6 in the morning. And it was a night sky without clouds and without the moon. It was stunning. You talk about like light pollution. There was a little bit of that, but I'm guessing that there was much less than I was accustomed to, because as soon as we get out of town, not like this town has a ton of spotlights or anything, but get out of town on these like long open roads, I would just continue to stare up at the night sky and the stars that were visible, like the galaxy that was visible, the immensity of God, the immensity of the night sky. And it's so obscured to us during the day because of the sun. We just see a blue sky if it's a clear day. We don't see the night sky with all the stars. Unbelievable, wondrous. It made me want to get up at 3 in the morning on a day where I've got a long stretch of an open space. And if it's going to be a clear night, just to be able to walk under the night sky for a few hours. Hasn't happened. I didn't do that. So far, it's just a nice wish. But there was a couple that was ahead of me. And so they were, I could see at the beginning, the light, they had a headlamp. I was just using the flashlight on my phone to guide my path. And that's what I've done anytime I've walked in the dark. Well, I ended up eventually catching them. And again, what I've been praying at this point by myself, and I caught them maybe after, I don't know, an hour and a half. And I thought, well, let me just say hi and see if they are open to a conversation. And if so, I'll walk with them for a bit. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. I'm fine. And as I did, I said hello, and they spoke English. And Australians, ta-da, Australians, here we go. friendly people. And another great example of a conversation that was very interesting. The wife in this instance, they were probably my age, maybe a little younger than me. This was an example of, I finally met someone who was at least keeping even with me in asking me questions that were interesting and engaging, as much as I was asking them questions. Most often, I'm the one that is asking folks questions about their lives, and it's fairly common that they love being received by someone who's open to asking interesting questions and engage with them, that they'll just stay in that flow. And I'm not saying they're self-centered, they'll just stay in that flow. And so we continued on in the conversation, and she'd be asking me a lot of questions. And so sure enough, again, it comes out that I'm doing this because of faith and my kids and this and that and the other thing. And so we have all these conversations, like a meandering conversation about jobs and work and life in Australia and life here. And all of that's well and good. And then it comes out into the open that one of the reasons why they're walking is in memory of her dad. Her dad had died, and that was a painful thing for her, the loss of her dad. And so she was walking in sort of his memory. And so we continued to talk some more, and sure enough, I started to bring in the perspective of faith. And then the conversation shifted. They had been, again, very open and engaging, and again, very dialogical in the conversation. And then the husband, shared that the two of them had something in common, that they both had lost a brother unexpectedly, tragically, suddenly, when they were younger. And he went into a little bit of the detail about the loss of his brother in a car accident where his brother was the victim of someone hitting him, killing him. They didn't tell me about her brother's situation, but the impact of the loss of those siblings in their earlier years. I think they were both young adults, so maybe between, say, 15 and 25 in those years. He talked about the impact on his family, the devastation that was present in his mom and dad's life, very devout Catholics, by the way. But in that circumstance, it was like a gut punch. Of course, way worse than that, but I'm just saying, just one of those. It was a heavy blow, and it caused tremendous difficulty that they had to navigate going forward. And in so many words, it meant that they had a very difficult time trusting or believing in God, believing in God's goodness, and deep questions around why would God let that happen. Now, the conversation didn't go into those matters. The one poignant point I was able to make before we shifted out of the conversation was, she said that she doesn't focus on God, but she does focus that in this journey of life, she's headed back towards a reunion with the loved ones she's lost. So she looks beyond death to being able to come back to communion and relationship with her dad and the brother that she lost. And that's as far as she can go, is that she's walking on that journey towards him. I had talked about the idea that we're all pilgrims in life. We're not just pilgrims on the Camino, and we're all on a journey, and that this world isn't our final home. Our final home is heaven. And as painful as that reality of death is, it's something that is what is that doorway that gets us to our final home. And it was like, we don't know how to really process that. And I brought up the truth in our faith that we believe that our loved ones who've gone before us in faith do see us, they know us, they love us, and they're praying for us. And there wasn't that sense. There was a fragility there because he started crying, and there was this sense of, she's like, let's talk about something else. And so you can't force that, right? You can't force those kind of conversations. And so I just said, I'll be praying for you guys. And we continued talking and ended up having some really, again, much lighter conversations. If you want to talk to Australians, ask them about their favorite Australian rules football team. I've learned something on this trip. First thing you want to know is where do you live? The second is, what team do you root for? And I guess right now we're in the midst of the playoffs, so it's a big deal. And Australians other Australians would talk about this. So that ended up being a great conversation that lasted more than an hour. I learned more about Australian rules football and the different teams than I could ever imagine, including the fact that there is one 6'8" basketball player from the US who came to Australia and has been very successful at Australian rules football. There you go. I don't remember his name, but that was all I was intended to do. That was it. I wasn't going to be some angel sent from God with some kind of magic supernatural breakthrough. No, I was there to play a part. I played the part I was going to play. And now I get to continue to do my part by praying for them, for their lost loved ones. And you can too. We can gather around them and join with heaven and praying for them, but on earth praying for them that they would be able to come to a sense of forgiveness, like forgiving God for letting that happen, if that's a way of talking about it. And then they come to healing, to be able to experience a sense of revival and restoration of faith. And so we have to remember, when people have gone through tragedies, that it can really reduce the scope of how they are able to operate in the realm of faith, and have tremendous compassion and reverence for their journey, and to, again, be prayerful in accompanying them, and without ever trying to bring them a truth that's out of time, out of place, even if it's true, because it won't be received, and it could in fact do further damage. So that was my journey. All right, so pray for those who have experienced, again, unexpected, tragic, sudden losses, especially of children or siblings. And I'm going to talk more about that actually tomorrow. All right, God bless.